Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Smith. I'm the marketing manager here at ListEngage. And on the line with us today, I've got two fantastic fellow engagers, and I'm going to do some short introductions for them both. So first, going from left to right here, we've got Fred Homner. Now, Fred is our head of customer success and Salesforce practices. And this means a few things for everyone who's joining us. This means that Fred sees and really understands that post implementation from an initial perspective, but also the initial implementation of Salesforce technologies on a regular basis. He is the guiding North Star for customer success on a holistic scale. But to take it a step further, Fred's been in the ecosystem for more than 13 years. He is a marketing champion with a robust background in data cloud, marketing cloud, all things AI and emerging technology. We're very lucky to have Fred here on the line with us. Next, we've got Cole Fisher. Cole Fisher is our strategic solutions lead, bringing years of Salesforce ecosystem experience as well. And the other side of this coin here being the kind of implementation lens. Cole's expertise is all dwelling in solutioning, figuring out what the right first step, next step, et cetera, is for customers. And between the two of them, we're going to have a fantastic conversation on connections and key findings. So for today, this is going to be our focal area, everyone. We're going to talk about the big themes of connections. We're going to discuss 3 things that really stood out to us while we were on site at Connections in Chicago. We're going to talk about foundational best practices that kept bubbling up, get into some questions and answers. I'll remind everyone once again, if you joined a little bit late, there is a message that I'm just going to copy and paste one more time. Then I'm going to pin it for all. So if you use this link that's now pinned in chat, you'll be able to submit questions throughout the webinar. And then we've got a couple of on-demand sessions that have become our favorites for you to bookmark for later. So let's talk about connections, right? Here's a little slide preview of our team at Connections. I love a gallery collage of photos. And there are a couple of things that really stand out to me on this slide. Firstly, I see a lot of presentations, but I see a lot on Agentforce, whether it's the little robot icon, whether it is something that's being presented. You can see Cole here featured while presenting the agentic roadmap session with the slide titled Your First Agent, right? And I saw Agentforce not only here in the gallery view, but throughout Campground. And there were a couple other key themes that came with it. You know, we participated in the Agentic Showdown at Connections this year, and that was almost a springboard to not only our time at Connections, but critical findings and next steps that we see across a lot of our customers. So what are those big 3 things? It's Marketing Cloud Next, it's Agentforce, and it's data. Now, I'm going to give it to Cole to kick us off here to give us a little bit of a preview of what everyone can get ready to think about and talk about when it comes to Marketing Cloud Next.
Thanks, Leah. So I feel like at first blush, when Marketing Cloud Next was proposed and shown on the big screen, it kind of made you stop in your tracks. You kind of thought to yourselves as Salesforce marketers, like, is this really another, like, is this a third marketing product, something else that I need to leverage here? And I think as they started to kind of demo this out, it became less about a new product and more about the enhancement to what we're already doing within Salesforce marketing today. So there's been this evolution that's been occurring for the last several years where Salesforce is bringing in everything into one unified solution with data and data cloud as its foundation that's really focused on ease of use and accessibility and integrating to AI capabilities. So Salesforce demoed Marketing Cloud Next and showed some really interesting capabilities that we'll dive into here shortly. But the theme of the message was about delivering additive value and unlocking new capabilities on top of what marketers are already doing in Salesforce today without disrupting what they're already doing. So things like moving assets or things like that, that's not a part of the conversation at all, because this is really just unlocking new capabilities where we're not at today.
Yeah, absolutely. And next, kind of building on this, right? Fred, I was hoping you could give us a little bit of an overview for Agentforce. Give us a soundbite of what we heard.
Yeah, I think to Cole's point there with within Marketing Cloud Next, one of the biggest things with Agentforce, right, is it's no longer just there to show you what it can do for you and like help make your day to day easier, but it's really being pushed and kind of just natively pushed across all of the Salesforce products. And more importantly, one of the big things that was announced there is how it's kind of being pushed into Marketing Cloud as more of an engine, right, as a conversation starter versus just something that can be used to help create content or help create segments. And then obviously the last but not least is really as agentic models and AI is coming into organizations. They are starting to show how you can create your agents, and more importantly, how you can optimize and see how the ROI and be able to quantify what your agents and AI is doing for you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good layover and a good transition to data. And I want to call out something. We're not saying data cloud here. We're saying data. Now, Cole, Fred, any preview you want to tee up here?
Yeah, I think as big a theme as like Marketing Cloud Next and all things agentic were at Connections, the one constant that seemed to underpin everything was this underlying data that enables all of it. So we know that the output is only as good as the input. And anything that's unclean, inaccessible, or incomplete data always correlates to poor execution on the use cases themselves. But we learned through the demos, and we've learned just experientially for sure that data doesn't need to be perfect, and we need to adjust our use cases and opportunities to where the data is in current state, really, and iterate to where we want to be in future state. So it's not about getting perfect data. Too many customers are focused on trying to make sure everything is perfect in their data before getting started. And what ends up happening is, they're sitting on the sidelines overanalyzing while competitors and others in the space are moving forward and gaining traction on the concept of just iterative success, using what you have in current state and just building on that for momentum.
Yeah, I think that preview of these key themes that we're going to be addressing gives us the good foundation to start talking about Marketing Cloud Next. Now, Marketing Cloud Next was announced during the keynote. We got a great message on, I think, the story of convergence. This is a screenshot from that session with one of the more critical graphics that they showed during that session, really featuring a visual to show that connection, to show the channel kind of and sending opportunity, how it's built on the Salesforce metadata platform. But Cole, I was hoping you could walk us through what you saw as the critical things that customers need to be paying attention to for Marketing Cloud Next.
Yeah, so Julie Marks and I gave a presentation on Marketing Cloud Next, and we worked closely with the Salesforce product team to understand what was available at the time and what was going to be demoed, and sort of the lingo and everything like that. And I'll tell you, this kind of shows you how fast some of this is moving. And it sounds like even some of the product team didn't realize the name was going to be Marketing Cloud Next at the time. So I think internally there's, there and in the, partner space, there's been names like Marketing Cloud Encore, MC Advanced. I've heard MC Plus, things like that. And we had kind of joked around with the product team, just saying, I wish it had been called Marketing Cloud Enhance. Because that's really what it is. It's an enhancement to what you already have in place with Marketing Cloud Engagement today or account engagement in your current instance. But I feel like as this was being showed, I think the immediate first questions that started coming up was, will I have to migrate content, and when are they going to retire previous ESPs, and ESP being email service platform, like Marketing Cloud Engagement or account engagement. But I feel like as more was demoed and more content came out and more discussion, it became really clear that this was more so a story on the convergence of marketing capability and additive value. So it's almost a new take on what, quote, marketing capability really actually means. So Marketing Cloud Next demos, they sort of allowed us to challenge what standard practices should look like. So one of the things I really liked was, this concept of pushing back on why we have do not reply emails. If it's a touch point, why are we telling the customer like, hey, this is our term that we're reaching out to you, don't reply to us. We don't listen. We're lofting this over that, proverbial wall to service or something now. And so this is no longer marketing's problem. And really, this is the perfect opportunity to open dialogues and with customers and get ahead of questions and proactively provide direction on next steps, even upsell or cross-sell and improve that end customer experience. It also allows us to blend the previously walled off boundaries between marketing and sales and service and other areas of the business, and what those responsibilities are, and kind of break down barriers and provide a more cohesive and seamless end user experience. So one of the examples was marketing. SMS has always been for us, has just been purely outbound one-way promotional, but with Marketing Cloud Next, it actually allows two-way conversational texting. So, I can pick up that a marketer, as a marketer and reroute a text that's coming in to service or to be managed as a ticket or something like that. And this used to be a really hard line where, we would say in the Salesforce ecosystem, well, you have to have digital engagement. And that's, an entirely different number. And that comes from the service side. And we're just, outbound. And now this is kind of breaking down those barriers as to how we think about what marketing is capable of, how far over the line we can cross, and really sort of focus on a cohesive and seamless end user experience. And then I think Marketing Cloud Next is really serving as that interface for marketers in this new world of this sort of unified vision that Salesforce has on a single platform, with data being, the foundation, and focusing on, again, AI, ease of use, and accessibility.
And Cole, one fantastic overview of Marketing Cloud Next and unpacking what that means for not only our customers, but the ecosystem at large. Whenever you talk about features, capabilities, kind of this story of convergence, my mind automatically goes back to kind of this conversation of capabilities and features. And right now on the screen, we've got a couple of buckets or focal areas. Anything here you want to touch on and really clarify on Marketing Cloud Next, what it means for customers on the line?
Yeah, it's really exciting. But it's very different than because if they're doing things the same, then this would be a migration conversation and things like that. But since this is different, like for instance, integration and segmentation, whatever's in Data Cloud is integrated, whatever Data Cloud is integrated into, and that's all those pre-built connectors, zero copy features, things like that. Marketing Cloud Next is leveraging these since it sits on top of Data Cloud. So any segments in Data Cloud feed Marketing Cloud Next. You're not building out a separate contact model, data extensions, things like that. And you're also able to build out segments using natural language prompts, which will be a really cool feature. With marketing and automation, we mentioned that Marketing Cloud Next has conversational SMS, but it also has WhatsApp capabilities. So that'll be big for international users, or even account engagement users who previously didn't have SMS capabilities or had to use a third-party tool. With content, Marketing Cloud Next leverages the Salesforce CMS. So it's already connected. It's already integrated to Marketing Cloud account engagement. So you won't be having to recreate or create new content that's not available in Marketing Cloud account engagement. They're actually working on Marketing Cloud engagement for content builder assets to come into Marketing Cloud Next. So again, you're not duplicating anything. Those are on separate APIs, obviously. So that's still a roadmap right now, but that's going to be one of the next capabilities. I think the concept is generally that you can access, update, or build new content without having to jump from one interface to another. So as we go through, we're always focusing on the customer experience and how this needs to be seamless. And I feel like what we're seeing now is the coming to fruition where that same experience is for marketers, and we're we're seeing a seamless experience where we're not jumping from one tool to another platform, that it's all going to be available for us because it's integrated into Marketing Cloud engagement or account engagement. And on top of that, you can actually leverage within content, you can leverage agents to help develop campaigns, optimize touch points, create new assets, things like that. And then I guess the last thing I'll touch on here is AI. So AI, as we've referred to it traditionally in Marketing Cloud, has not truly been AI. It's been machine learning, and it's been things like, or in account engagement as well, been things like campaign influence, messaging insights, or send time optimization. And these are all really helpful tools. But they've always been out of the box, and they're not able to be optimized. And I, for instance, I can't redefine what a window shopper is as a persona and engagement scoring. Those are just out of the box metrics, and I can either use those, kind of take it or leave it. And we've worked with lots of auto sales or HLS, or like longer life cycle types of customer engagements where 90 days of engagement, like in send time optimization, is really irrelevant when you have 6 month to a multi-year customer life cycles. So the features in Marketing Cloud Next don't replicate these, so you're still able to use these out of the box features as they're relevant to you. But the features, this also provides capabilities that are more aligned to what really AI truly is, and with that, entirely customized and optimized to your specific needs and data.
Fantastic overview of this story of convergence. And I really like that word. I know that's the word we heard at Connections. I think it carries through in this conversation and gives us an opportunity to really talk about what AI truly can be with Salesforce, what Agentforce looks like. And Fred, I'm hoping you can jump in here and give us your key findings from Connections relative to Agentforce.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, the first thing with Agentforce there that we saw was, I look at the, from Salesforce point of view, there's the big three, right? You have your sales, you have your service, and marketing. And as Agentforce has matured over the time, over the last year or so, it really came out the gate swinging with sales and service. And when it came out with marketing, it was, again, as I said a little earlier before, it's more focused on what it can create for you to deploy campaigns, right? Whether that's content, segments, and things along those lines. What we saw during Connections, which, obviously is while not solely, it's a more marketing focused conference, is the ability now for it to be an engine, right? To have those two-way conversations. And a lot of agents that they announce, whether it's, being able to launch campaigns instantly, autonomous one-to-one personalization, the real-time recommendations and offers, 24/7 omni-channel conversations, self-optimizing campaigns. There was quite a bit of agents there. So what I saw there was truly integrating Agentforce across all the clouds that they have there at Salesforce. Whether not just marketing, but loyalty, and across all the industry clouds as well. And the second piece was really starting to see stories of success. Again, we're at a very early stage with Agentforce, a year or so, it's been out. And it's starting to mature a little bit, right? And yes, we saw a lot of what is possible when it came out, your kind of rudimentary use cases, whether that's lead gen or your support agents and things along those lines. But what we saw with the Pacers and a lot of other customers that were on stage there, is true actual use cases and successes of Agentforce being put in, and not just your run-of-the-mill kind of what you've seen being pushed out there at the beginning, but like real life use cases there. And I think a big theme there is also within Agentforce was the starting small and building up. One of the things that you were announcing there in a lot of the different workshops and on the campground, where they see, the create, engage, qualify, optimize, and that's kind of like a framework. And that kind of goes hand in hand to what here at ListEngage we've been showing is with our ACE framework and our adoption model. So, ACE stands for adopt, create, and excel. And really, it's the crawl, walk, run method. The first thing you want to do is like think through something that's achievable and easily approachable with like a small hands-on type of thing. Pilot this. This is to really get your organization on board, kind of see what is possible, get them to start thinking, what if, what can they do? And then you move into what we call the create stage. And that's really some like use cases and go through a use case type of workshop. Where can AI and that be actually put into the organization? And then Excel. And that's just reiterating, right? And really, this framework should be kind of in a circle, because you kind of go through that over and over as you continue to building more and more agents or building on top of your agents until you get something that is fitting and you're getting the ROI from your organization.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one, Fred, thank you for that fantastic overview on what we saw at Connections from Agentforce as an offering. Thank you for going over our ACE. And when I think about Agentforce and Connections, I think a lot of my mind goes to the Agentic Showdown. I'll do a shameless plug there for Team ListEngage, who built this great demo and really pushed the boundaries of what Agentforce could do. And then right after coming out of Connections, we got an announcement on Agentforce 3, right? So some news coming out after Connections. I felt like we would be remiss to not talk about it today. Fred, Cole, both of you here, any key call outs for our customers and friends who are on the line trying to wrap their heads around Agentforce?
Yeah. Just as Cole is talking about the naming conventions and everything with Marketing Cloud, I'm sure after this we'll be hearing news of Agentforce 4 and 5. But no, honestly, I'm so glad that we decided to bring this in here, because to me, I'm not going to go word for word with everything on here. There's a lot of press and news and information out there, but there was really two main things that stood out to me there. One was the command center. Look, we have implemented numerous agents here at ListEngage for our customers. And, the biggest thing is when we go through there is focusing on, the use case to make sure that they see the benefits of that, right? So much nowadays we see customers like jumping on the bandwagon of AI and like forcing it into their organization instead of taking a step back and like going through the proper use case and development to see, does it really make sense and are they going to get an ROI out of that? Well, part of the ROI, right, is seeing like usage and how many people are using it, what's happening, how are those interactions happening. And while they did have ways to be able to see these metrics, it wasn't very transparent or user friendly to be able to go through and see that. You kind of had to dig for it. And that's, was really hard for us to get through to our customers, and an extra step we had to take to make sure they were set up for success. With the command center, it solved a lot of that. Not only is it, a pretty clean dashboard there, but it gives real good information on like real-time activity that's happening, and being able to really get an overview of adoption. And that's going to be huge for, the stakeholders involved there, whether that's the individuals implementing it all the way up to, the COOs, CEOs, seeing who is using it, how often they're using it, and how they're using it. And then more importantly, obviously with anything with AI, right, we want to make sure what those agents are doing are being honest and providing the information. So it also allows like a real easy way to be able to look through and trace through every interaction on there. And then the second piece is MCP, which is another acronym we'll go into, right? Not to be confused with Marketing Cloud Personalization, but Model Context Protocol. And what to me makes this super exciting, right, is it's really it gives the ability for enterprises to easily connect to Agentforce. One of the big things is when we're going and working with our customers is like going through all the red tape, making sure everything is up to snuff, right, through the organization from a security and compliance standpoint. And really what this does is it gives a common language for Agentforce and other infrastructures across enterprises, and not just infrastructures for enterprises, but more importantly as well as for other platforms, right, outside of Salesforce. We all know that like if a customer is all in on Salesforce, there's other platforms that they're using as well. And this allows it to easily be able to integrate and communicate between the two, using a common framework. Leia, you put in there the USB-C for AI agents, and it's a while cliche, it's a perfect acronym for what MCP is, and it's great to see them quickly adapt it and be pushing these types of things into Agentforce as they become more mainstream.
Yeah, no, I love that USB-C kind of like comparative that we can do on what this means and how it can be applied. Cole, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think Fred nailed it. I think for me, like model context protocol, MCP, I mean, we're going to blur the lines of MCP so many times talking about market cloud personalization in this, but we've all been in that place where like we put in a legitimate question, a legitimate prompt into some form of AI, and we get this really broad generic response where like, that wasn't helpful at all, nor was it even accurate. Like some of this, the responses can just be all over the place. And with model context protocol, it's in layman's terms, it's basically the way that AI models, essentially LLMs, can use and ingest and understand contextual data. And what we mean by contextual data here is, in Salesforce, they would be using things like user roles and profiles, like understanding who's a service rep versus who's a sales rep, and CRM data like account history, open cases, resolved cases, things like that, object relationships, say like the workflow where somebody is in the customer life cycle that you may be talking about or talking to, and then business rules like SLAs or lead scoring models, things like that you may have in place that all adds to this context and then grounds it on the Einstein trust layer, and makes sure that what we're passing through is accurate and relevant and pertinent information. So I feel like the use case, think about it as like a sales rep generating an email. So they may open up a contact in Salesforce, and the agent can access, contact details, any past emails that have happened, events they've attended, things like that, current opportunity stage. Again, pass it through that trust layer to filter any data, like removing anything that's sensitive. And then the context is injected into a large, an LLM prompt. And so AI generates this follow-up email, and it can be, thanks for attending such and such event, and here's that follow-up about your specific account that you were asking about. And so all of this is much more reliable and pertinent based on this MCP concept. So that's really exciting for me.
Yeah, for sure. And the last thing I will say, the section there where the pre-built industry specific actions, it was a breath of fresh air to see the amount of industry out of the box actions that have come along with Agentforce 3. Again, don't want to keep beating the same drum, but beforehand, like everything you would see was like the same 3 to 5 rudimentary, whether powerful, whether like you're perfect fit for an agent, like just off the top of the head. There's so much more out there, and seeing that many just be introduced at once out of the box actions really not only allows customers to quickly be able to adapt to these to this functionality and actions in there, but more importantly, it shows the commitment Salesforce is making across the board and what they're looking for Agentforce to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think thank you both for covering these key areas on Agentforce 3. The last thing I'll layer in is with Agentforce 3 also came an announcement that there are 30 specialized partners of choice for Agentforce implementations. I'm going to do another shameless plug as the marketing gal and say ListEngage is on that list of 30 partners recognized on a global scale that are preferred for Agentforce implementations. And I think what you heard from Cole and Fred is kind of the why behind that and why we're leaning into it so much is really linked back to something that's foundational to everything we do at ListEngage and a lot of what we saw at Connections, which is data. I frequently say data is king, queen, bishop, and sometimes pawn. One, because I think it's funny, but two, it's true. It's true. Data can either be the piece on the chessboard that takes us further, or it might stall a little bit. Now, Cole, you mentioned earlier something really interesting about people starting where they're at with data. Anything that you want to like kick us off with here on how data was a theme at Connections and what customers should be doing when they're thinking about their data?
Yeah, I think when we're looking for opportunities to leverage agents or even Marketing Cloud Next or whatever it might be, there's this sort of trend where we're just trying to like kind of like a POC, foot in the door, make sure just try something out and realize value from it before we put all our chips in, right? And so I keep kind of reiterating this concept that data doesn't have to be perfect, and we've seen that over and over again. Like some of the best use cases are coming from just what we have available at the time in current state. And so I always kind of say it's just like marketing. It's never complete. Nobody's ever fully done with their data. Like quality, quantity, accessibility, that's great to have, but you're never going to have 5-star data on every type of dimension that you can measure. It's always being improved and iterated upon, and just like marketing, that's how your data should look. And so how Marketing Cloud Next and agents will roll out on top of that is the same sort of thing. It's this iterative approach. And so one of the big fun events that you alluded to earlier, Leah, was the agentic showdown. And I'm not just saying that because we happened to win it, but because if you saw for instance the LE Optical demo, we started that started with just a single use case, and then we kind of expanded to another one, and then we sort of said like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if somebody could sign up for loyalty through the agent? And then wouldn't it be cool if they could schedule an appointment through the agent as well and have purchase capabilities? And so all these things just sort of at a broader scale roll out slowly over time because we iterate. We work with the data that we have in place right now, and that way we're not sitting on the sidelines. I kind of mentioned that earlier. You can either sit on the sidelines and wait till everything's perfect, or you can get started with what you have and build momentum and progress on that, and be patient as the iteration comes. And honestly, that way you're going to learn, and things are going to change anyways. As you're going to find out that the agent that I thought I wanted in place turns out to have more value in a different capacity, or with different type of data, or with more controlled guardrails or something like that. Keep it in place.
Yeah. And Fred, is there anything here, thinking about guardrails, right? Thinking about compliance, thinking about customer success, I kind of want to tap your shoulder here and see what else you would layer in on data, on how data ought to be thought about.
Yeah, I mean, I think like what we're looking at and what we're seeing here, right? From data, when we say we're talking about data, we're not talking about data cloud. But taking a step back even further there, what we're seeing from data cloud is that it's no longer this like product. It's more of like a foundational platform. It's part of almost every single product or platform Salesforce has now. And more importantly, it's able to, what you're able to do with Data Cloud is you're able to, use it to its full extent, be able to set up a, complete data model, have your reconciliation rules, unification and all that. Or you can take a step back and use it as little as you need for what you're trying to do. Cole mentioned with, LE Optical, when that first started, they were using maybe 10% of the functionality there. But it was being used because data is required for all of this, right? At the end of the day, regardless of what we're doing, whether it's your marketing initiatives, your agentic AI initiative, data is going to be required. And so what's unique and what we're starting to see now is the various flavors of the way customers are using data and data cloud now. Whether that's just to bring in certain sets of data from a RAG perspective of unstructured data that they need to reference in Agentforce, all the way to, they're bringing in everything from, their various data warehouses via, the zero copy or data federation to all their marketing data, from engagement to loyalty data to their sales and services, all of that there. And what makes Data Cloud so important is it gives that funnel, right? That bridge per se that we need to all of these other platforms and functionalities, including marketing and Agentforce, to be able to power it.
And I think it's worth reiterating too is we come up with this concept of like, oh, maybe I'd like to have agents that can handle two-way texting, which for me now I'm thinking about this in the product lens. That means I need Marketing Cloud Next. That means I need Data Cloud. That means it needs a CRM implementation, like all these implementations. And that's really not the case. It's much more lean than that. And so this whole unified platform concept really lends itself to lean, fast, quick ways to get started. And delivering on quick wins and showing ROI. And so these implementations become mere configurations or stand-ups, or sometimes just kind of like turning on the product, and there's not a lot more to that. And so it's really focused on simplicity, ease of use, and accessibility now than it is like entire implementations of different disparate products that we have to worry about bouncing from one to another.
I love the way that y'all covered not only the concept of starting where you're at, but making that delineation where it's not these disparate products, right? It is a story of building with what you've got and being lean and finding that ROI. And one interesting theme that brought a lot more return in terms of time spent in conversation, focus, and I think genuine, authentic value on site, on the ground at Connections were these foundational applications of best practices. I saw it in my own conversations one-on-one with customers, but I also saw it throughout Campground. Very basic applications of things that I think get lost in the shuffle of emerging technology sometime. Cole, Fred, I'd love to hear y'all's perspective on some of these. I don't know, I kind of want to call them surprises. It was a surprise to me to see so many foundational concepts this year at Connections.
Yeah, it felt like, and I knew the community hub that was being set up was kind of an homage to like the Exact Target Connections days, where it was all like marketer friendly. It was focused on things like conversations around IP addresses and deliverability and things like that I think we sometimes take for granted now, because we've been around it so much that we forget that every year there's new people coming into the industry, into these verticals that are into these marketing roles and things like that probably don't know about best practices, or about changing hex values on a call to action, or about warming an IP and things like that. And so it's really cool not just to relive these and kind of rehash and make sure that we're all on the same page, but also even as AI starts to come out and roll out and has the ability to complement or even take over some of these needs, it still behooves us as marketers to have a good concept of understanding, a foundational reasoning of what this is. And that way we can inform better prompts, and we can get more performance out of AI, and we can dictate better what's being used around us. And so I feel like that was a really cool thing that felt very much kind of vintage ET, if you will, that I enjoyed.
It did feel very vintage ET over there in the community hub, even the people. It was the folks who I feel like have been in the ecosystem for so long, and it was like meeting up with a bunch of old pals who you haven't seen in a while, but you turn around and suddenly there's a massive grouping of people you've spent all these years with. Fred, anything you would add on foundations?
No.
Okay. I think that means we've got the perfect amount of time to address a couple of questions. We've had a few questions come in already. So if you haven't posted a question yet, but you have a question, I encourage you to either click on the link in the chat or give this QR code a scan. And I want to first thank everyone for spending the time with us today. And as we're going through this kind of Q&A session, I'm going to kick us off with a question that came through during our Marketing Cloud Next portion of today's conversation. So Cole, this is going to be for you. This question came through and it says, how do I know if I need Marketing Cloud Next versus my current Marketing Cloud? Any thoughts there, Cole?
Yeah, good question. What I do is say like I encourage you to just kind of get your mind out of a product focus and think more product agnostically and think more about capability than solution. And so if I say things like, I want certain capabilities in marketing, or if I could just sort of dream of anything that I wanted marketing to do, whether that's current state in my products today or not, that's what I feel like should probably inform my roadmap more. And so if I can think about this agnostic of product and say, yeah, it'd be great to have AI that can do this for me, or if it can be great to have, two-way, SMS capabilities or whatever it might be. I would say think less about what we're rolling out right now as product capabilities and things like that, and just think more about specifically your contextual needs. That'll inform more so what's important to you, where you have opportunities that lie, what would be better for your end user or customer experience. And so I think when we think about it in that vein, then working with a partner, working with ListEngage, for instance, we can kind of back into what does that mean from the product standpoint? What does that mean from data? And so I alluded to this earlier, but I feel like we try to focus so much on a cohesive and seamless customer experience that as partners, we need to do the same thing for our marketers and sales and service folks, where it should be less important what the product is and more important like what capability you're having empowered for you right now.
I think that's a perfect culmination of focusing on the capability, not necessarily the product.
Mm-hmm.
And to the person who posted that question, if you want to chat later, feel free to send me a message. I can also follow up with you and we can figure out what that looks like, right? No matter what current state looks like, we can make sure those capabilities match what you're trying to enable, to Cole's point. This next question is on Agentforce. So Fred, I'm probably going to lean on you for this one. What use case should I start with on Agentforce? I don't use AI at all right now other than Grammarly. So I'm thinking this is a marketer who uses the Grammarly content function. I'm guilty of using that myself. It's fantastic. The plugin's great. Fred, what should they start with on Agentforce though?
Yeah, so I think before, first of all, that's a great question. And my recommendation, and anytime I talk to a customer who's like looking to, implement AI into their organization and processes, is to take a step back and not look at the technology per se, but start looking at the use cases, right? Looking at where in your day-to-day is your organization either struggling to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and more importantly, where there's a lot of manual effort into, right? And then get those. So now you have a selection of like, okay, maybe these are the types of scenarios where AI can really interject and provide some value. And then funnel that down into use cases. How could they do that? And then funnel down one step further and, okay, what of those use cases do we think we can action on and be able to create something or put a process in place in a relatively small and easy time frame? And then once you get that, you kind of go through that ACE model, right? Of then start optimizing and where can you add things on? And then, kind of rinse and repeat. And that's where where you'll be successful in getting AI into the organization, into processes, and then also being able to, show and have ROI into those.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes perfect sense. And I'll echo again, if you have questions with greater specificity or you just want to chat through it, feel free to email us, let us know. We're here to help. And I want to say thank you to everyone and give the confirmation that we will be sending this deck out after today's presentation. So this kind of cheat sheet of sorts on-demand sessions that our team is going back to after connections will be shared with everyone. And I want to thank you for your time and hope everyone has a fantastic Tuesday. Be on the lookout for an email from info@ListEngage with these slides and the recording so you can watch on demand later. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.